We recently had a question about client housing status, this field on the client's form, and the user was questioning why there was no option there for a client living under law enforcement custody or in a halfway house. So that brings up an opportunity to give you some idea of the fact that all drop-down lists in CSST are customizable. So if there's options there that you don't want to see or that you want to have be added to any drop-down list in CSST, you can do that. The first thing to do in the process of doing that, and you have to be logged in as a system administrator to do this, is go to administration, and this option right here, show categories, should be checked. And if it's not, as it is in this case here, just click on it. And then when you open it again, you'll see that it has the check mark by it. With that check mark checked, when you hover the mouse over a drop-down list, you see the tooltip that comes up here. It says occupancy status. That's the category type in category codes that holds the options that are in that drop-down list. If we go to education level, we see the tooltip says education level. Client status, it says the tooltip comes up and says client status. So all drop-down lists have that capability. So to add options to the housing status, and you see that it's not, the category type is not housing status, it's occupancy status. So again, as a system administrator, under administration on the main menu, open the category codes form, and then in the category type selector, which is the top drop-down list, we want occupancy status. So OCC will jump us there. And here we see all the options that are available in that drop-down list for occupancy status or housing status, as the label has it on the client's form. Add a new one, click the plus button on the toolbar, you get a new code, and you can type in, let's say, LAW law enforcement, ENF. So custody of law enforcement, and that's all we need to do that. Let's add another one, and then we have to save it, and add another one, and we'll say halfway house, and we'll save that, and we'll close it. And when we come back to this, we see halfway house and custody of law enforcement listed at the top. Now, the fact that they're listed at the top simply means that we didn't change that sort order in the category codes form. So if you choose to do that, let's go back to occupancy status again. And we see that halfway house and custody of law enforcement, because when we add new records, they always by default come in at the top of the list. If you want to change that, you can do one of two things. You can either click on the column header, which will put it in alphabetical order by that column, or you can do it by code. It's alphabetical order by code. Or you can go to display order, which will be the way it was saved last. So we now see halfway house and custody of law enforcement back at the top of the list again. The other alternative, if there are some that you would like to see at the top of the list, but that's not necessarily in the alphabetical order, you can grab this little mover bar here and move those to the top of the list, or move them up and down, put them in any order you like. Once you've got that saved, or once you've got it to set the way you like, click the save button, and now we see homeless at the top, and then homeowner, rooming house, and so forth. We click this, and when we come back here, then we will see at the top of the list homeless, owner, rooming house, and so forth. So they're in the order that you save them in that category codes form. This feature applies, as I say, to all drop-down lists. So any drop-down list like this one, client status, educational level. It also applies to checklists like this one, other client status. Now this one, the tooltip trick doesn't work because Windows itself overrides the Windows tooltip with another function. So we can't show you that tooltip on these, but in checklist, in the case of checklists, almost always that's going to be whatever the label on the checklist is. So the list of codes that appear in this checklist in the category codes form occur under a category type other client status. It's also true for mover lists. So the languages mover list that we see here, you see when I hover the mouse over it, the tooltip comes up and says languages. That means that in category codes, the category type languages hold all of the contents of this mover list. So if there are languages that you would like to add or delete or edit, you can do so by going to category codes and languages and changing the list of languages that appear in this list. So drop-down lists, mover lists, and checklists all have that capability in CSST.